right, good afternoon. Welcome. These two did not allow me to waste any time getting accustomed back into this role. So I'm right here and ready to start you off. Again, welcome. We appreciate you being here today, knowing that it is tricky being out of your classroom during this last month of school. So we appreciate the time that you have carved out to spend the afternoon learning alongside of us. I'd like to invite you to take a look at the prompts on the screen and just familiarize yourself with those two questions. So for our inclusion activity today, in just a moment, when prompted, please stand. Well, maybe first pull up your implementation guide before you stand. Make eye contact with someone across the room that you have not had the opportunity to get to know yet. And then just engage in some conversation about your implementation guide, what went well for you this year. You can respond to the prompts, so you can go rogue and just talk about something that is meaningful to you that you might want to share. Please honor the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, and inquire. You'll also notice that there's a timer on the screen. For us, we're going to try and be intentional about the time we spend today and get through things that get through what we have planned for our time together. So you have 5 minutes, so just think about the air time, and please honor each person's reflections and give them ample time to speak. You'll know we're ready for the next set of directions when you see one of us at any point during the time enter into the space with our hand raised. Would you please at that time close your conversation and be ready for the next set of direction? What questions might you have about the next 5 minutes? Those conversations, we just want to recognize and honor that your work with the implementation guides and your continual reflection and refining is so important, and we hope that that was valuable for you this year. Might there be one person willing to just share something that resonated with them from hearing their partner share about their implementation guide?
I noticed that both my partner and I had similar ideas in mind, and through the work with the mediative questions and having a heightened awareness of the types of questions that we're asking, we both noticed growth in ourselves as well as a change in our student behaviors as a result of our awareness and intentional behavior around those questions.
Mm-hmm. You recognize how mediative questions can not only impact your identity, but also the identity of students and the identity of your classroom as a whole. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you. Would you please, at this point, you probably can recite this in your sleep, maybe, I'm thinking, but will you just familiarize yourself again with our why for our breakout session? And then I would invite you to be reminded of our outcome as well. We haven't seen this as much. So today you're going to notice a shift. Previously, we have been working to really just being conscious of impacting the students. So our role as facilitators and how that might impact students by asking mediative questions. Today you're going to notice a shift. We're going to be focusing on a peer-to-peer interaction today. And then hopefully get you start thinking about how you might be able to take this back to your grade level or your building, or how this might just become who you are and part of you as you walk around your school or in your district. Here are our learning intentions and success criteria. They will appear one at a time on the screen. I'd invite you to read them as they appear. So today we will utilize the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, and inquire with a peer. Take a deep breath. We're going to help you through this. When we use the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, and inquire, we will be able to pose mediative questions to help illuminate the thinking of someone else. And because we value an attitude of gratitude, today we will be able to intentionally write 2 thank you notes to someone who has had an impact on our journey. Here are our norms of collaboration. I am not going to do any dance moves for you this morning or this afternoon, and I'm not sure if I can follow up with facilitating the slide in a way that Marcus did this morning. However, please pay attention to yourself and others. This will help our group to function at its highest ability, and then also help you to just monitor yourself as you work with others today in a partnership or a group. Here's our agenda. Please take a moment to read those. It is also going to live here to my left, and if you would like to reference it throughout our time together or as we move throughout the afternoon, we'll try and reference this as well. Questions about our work today? Okay.
So, before we dive into why coaching, we thought we would start with a story. So, on the screen, you'll see a picture of a referee and a young lady. That young lady is Lindsay Whalen. Anyone familiar with Lindsay Whalen? Some people. So her story is really inspiring. She started as a basketball player at the University of Minnesota. And she played as a player there and graduated. And after graduation, she was fortunate enough to be drafted in the WNBA lottery, so the Women's Professional Basketball League. She played for 2 teams, the Connecticut Sun, and then she ended her career playing for the Minnesota Lynx. So kind of a homecoming for her. She got to play in the state where she grew up and went to college. Lindsay has actually played the most games in WNBA history. She's played 323 games as a player. While she was with the Minnesota Lynx, she was also able to work alongside her teammates to capture the WNBA title. And so when an opportunity came about for the women's basketball team at the University of Minnesota to coach, Lindsay retired and stepped into the role of coach. So she had all those years playing as a player at the collegiate level and at the national level, and when the opportunity arose for her to go back to where she started and coach, she said yes. And the reason she said yes was because she felt like the University of Minnesota had given so much to her that this was her way to give back to those students. And so you can now find her coaching on the sidelines at the University of Minnesota, their women's basketball team. And this, for us, incorporates and captures our goal for our time together. We are coaching ourselves out of coaching you. So after we're done today, you don't need us to provide mental maps anymore. You have the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, inquire. And so we will be your cheerleaders, and we'll be there on the sides to support you when you need us. But we really do feel like you're able to be that coach as a result of all of the learning that you have embarked upon this school year. So Lindsay, for us, is you. We are coming full circle, and you'll have the opportunity today to coach up here, which is going to feel some type of way, right? We're going to feel nervous and anxious, but think back to the first time we practiced with our peers pretending they were students. It's very similar. We're just going to lean in. We've got scaffolds, and we know that you can do it. So that's what we're hoping to do today. And you might be wondering why. Why would it be important for us to coach our peers? And Steph is going to take us through that piece.
All right, so the first part of our agenda today is why coaching. So we're going to invite you to engage in some reading today from it's a really short piece of reading from a book. The book is called Discovering the Meanings of Cognitive Coaching. So this is really going to ground us today in our experiences and what we have coming up ahead. So when you get this packet, you'll notice that we copied a larger section in case you care to read a little bit more about why coaching. There are 7 reasons. However, we're really going to dig into reason number 6 and then section number 7 as well. So when you get these packets, we'd invite you to take some time to read and internalize those 2 sections. And then find a partner just close by. So an elbow partner or someone close by that you can share with. So there's a prompt that you might consider. In what ways might you have found mediative questioning to be of benefit this year? Or you might consider sharing something that resonated with you from the reading. We'd invite you to utilize the structure on the screen. So partner A, share, and knowing that we're working as coaches growing in this space, we would invite you to use the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, and inquire. Then we would invite you to switch roles and repeat the process, and I'll be in this space with my hand raised, and we're ready to move on. What questions might you have before we hand out packets and jump in? It's multiple opportunities for reflection, which is what we do day in and day out. So when we hold that belief that coaching is worth our time, it will provide lots of opportunities for reflection. Knowing that we value coaching peers, Aubrey is going to share a story with us today.
So just as we expect you to take risks and be vulnerable, this is an opportunity for me to take a risk and be vulnerable with a story and share a little bit about the journey that I was on through just a short story. So I had the opportunity to have a peer conversation with another teacher in our district, and was just sharing the value of illuminating student mistakes as they occur when doing an opening routine or a number talk. So being able to scribe those and asking mediative questions to help fully understand where the student was coming from and their strategy, and then leaving those mistakes there and letting them rest. And the colleague boldly pushed back with my belief that leaving a mistake up on the board was something that should exist in the classroom. And so she questioned me and could not get on board with just leaving that there in the space. And so I had an opportunity to step in and utilize the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, inquire. After my blood pressure went up to here, then I slowly came down and was able to collect my thoughts and just offered a paraphrase that sounded something like this. You're feeling uneasy and you still are grappling with how you might coach a student who is stuck. You value student voice in your classroom and want to hear from all your students. And then I paused and inquired, I'm wondering how you might utilize the class to help blank organize his or her thoughts. So stepping out of that story, early on in my journey, I think I would have just melted at that point and been like, okay, yeah, I used to believe that too, and you just keep going with what you've always known. Because the confrontation piece, right? I'm a creature of just everybody get along, everyone's happy. So I had the opportunity to be able to question her, and I could see her nonverbal. She kind of moved in her position and paused for a minute. We didn't arrive at an outcome that I wanted, but I felt like if I assumed that role of the coach, it wasn't what I wanted for her in that moment. But because I was able to ask the question and inquire, it provided another interruption in her journey to cause her to reflect and think to herself, what might be the problem with leaving that mistake on the board? Or how might this impact other students in the room? And if I truly believe that mistakes help us grow, how am I able to model that? And should I expect that from my students? So I wanted to presume positive intentions, and I wanted to make sure that I protected her identity and continued building that trust and rapport with her. So you all know that this can be somewhat easier with students when you place a peer across from you. For some reason, we just get nervous, and it's just more difficult. So hopefully today you will leave knowing that this is not just shoes that you step into when you go into your classroom. These are shoes that you live and breathe every day, and this is a coach is someone who is part of you and who you just bleed through. It's a journey, and you're going to take risks, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to say something and then later go, oh, that paraphrase was awful, or why didn't I follow up with this question? But that's just part of the journey that you're on, and you will arrive somewhere down the line. But know that you can do this. You can do this, and this is not just something that happens within your classroom, and you can make a really big impact within your team, your school, and your district from the things that you've learned here.
So it sounds like Aubrey, you really value trust and rapport with others, and you recognize that we can have an impact on our even if we don't have the formal title of coach. We're able to follow the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, inquire when we have trust and rapport to shift perspective of others in our building. And we know that we can't just start inquiring and paraphrasing out of the blue with someone we don't know, because that will have ramifications. That we really have to take the time to build trust and rapport prior to following that mental map. And you have been able to reflect at first that journey was rocky or bumpy for you, just like it was when you tried to coach students. And there's extreme value when we do interrupt the status quo. So when people say things like those kids, we have an obligation as an adult in that building to clarify what that means. Because we are advocates for all children at the end of the day. So be brave, be bold, and try, knowing that you're going to have to preserve or presume positive intentions.
Thank you.
So as we step into what is going to be an opportunity, Steph and I are just going to review some scaffolds or supports that will be in place for you as we have the opportunity to coach our peers.
So in our time together this year, we have had the opportunity to learn about 3 different types of paraphrasing, or you might consider them 3 different levels of paraphrasing. So the first type that we learned about is the acknowledging paraphrase. So you might think of this as a mirror, and one word that comes to mind when thinking of an acknowledging paraphrase is building rapport. You have the opportunity to acknowledge the feelings of the speaker and acknowledge nonverbals, and really provide a brief statement in your own words rather than revoicing it, so that the speaker can really consider the accuracy of the paraphrase. The next type is an organizing paraphrase, in which the listener really puts the speaking into buckets or goals or themes, which provides the speaker a different way of hearing their thinking that maybe they hadn't thought of before, which might provide some sort of cognitive shift. And then the last type is an abstracting paraphrase. So an abstracting paraphrase is one in which you might provide some inferring. You might be inferring something underneath the surface that isn't directly spoken, and it's usually connected to values, beliefs, identity, assumptions. And this might provide an opportunity for the speaker to think in a way that maybe they haven't prior. So it provides really a shift in thinking.
And we've also spent time talking about mediative questions this year. So you'll notice there's another scaffold in place for us. So when we're crafting questions with our peers today, if we get flustered or need a moment, just take time to pause and think about the 5 types or characteristics of a mediative question. This is a safe space. So we're going to have a prompt on the screen that Aubrey is going to guide us through. And just know that this is a safe space. So whatever conversation happens between you and your coachee today, or you and your coach, it stays in this room. So you can take these conversations as shallow or as deep as you would like, and know that they're not going to go anywhere. This is just a place for us to try together. The other thing to illuminate is that these conversations are not about you when you're the coach. So removing the word I from your paraphrases is essential. It's not, I think what you're saying is, it's what you are surfacing is blank. When we remove ourselves, it really allows the other person to control their journey. So just try and be mindful of these things and know that these scaffolds are here as we embark upon this exciting opportunity to coach one another. What questions might we have about these scaffolds for support? Perfect. I think Steph is going to tell us how we might regroup.
So let's get up and move. In your table areas, you'll notice that there are some note cards that have book covers on it. So when prompted, we'd invite you to stand up and search the room for the person who shares the same book cover as you. Once you've found that person, please first introduce yourself, and then you'll need to find a new home base. And we'd ask that when you find your home base, you set up your chairs so that they're facing each other without a table in the middle. Knowing that we are going to jump into a coaching conversation, this is a way that you might structure a coaching conversation. Thank you. So we're excited to invite you to engage in structured dyads today. So as Andrew said, conversations that happen in this space today, it's important that they stay in this space. So knowing that some of us might share different things that are deeper or more surface level, please make sure that if you see this person outside of this space, that the conversations live in this room. On the screen, you'll see a prompt. We'd invite you to read it and consider how you might respond to this. Sure will work as partner A. You'll be invited to speak for 2 minutes about the prompt on the screen uninterrupted. Therefore, if you're partner B, we would ask that you would really work hard to not interrupt with any sort of question or wondering during that time, but just sit and listen as you're playing the role of coach. After that 2 minutes is up, and we'll signal that using Aubrey's phone, we would invite you to follow the mental map of pause, paraphrase, pause, and inquire. We will give you 5 minutes to continue this conversation using that mental map continuously with your partner for 5 minutes straight before switching roles. So we will utilize a timer so that we can really help you be aware of the timing, but the goal will be for uninterrupted speaking for 2 minutes, followed by the coach pausing, paraphrasing, pausing, inquiring, and continuing that mental map for 5 minutes. And at that point, we'll switch roles. What questions might you have about structured dyads?
For the prompts, do you want it to be about the school year around mathematics?
Thank you so much for those conversations and taking the risks and being vulnerable. At this time, we are going to provide a structure to help you share how that might have went or how that might have felt for you. This is called stepping out, and we're going to utilize the campfire strategy. So please pause and do not move yet. Go ahead and read our protocol and just kind of pause as you read each one of these prompts and think about how you might respond to those. right, in just a moment, we're going to invite you to stand. And with your partnership, find another partnership to form a campfire. And in that partnership, we would invite you to respond to the prompts. Now that you've spent some time in the role of the coach and the role of the coachee, how might this have felt for you? How might this have gone for you? What were some things that you felt like were strengths or just came easy to you? What were some things that might have maybe tripped you up a little bit, or some things that just didn't feel good yet? Please stay conscious of our norms of collaboration and just be mindful of the airtime within the members of your group. You'll know we're ready to move on to our next set of directions when I'm in that space with my hand up. What questions might you have? We so appreciate your attitude of just being able to take that risk and be vulnerable. We hope that that experience might have caused a shift in your thinking, and when you walk out the door today, you might be able to think about how the experience that just happened here might work within your school or within your district, or within your team, or with another colleague, and the impact that might have. At this time, Andrew's going to move us into our next part of our agenda, giving thanks.
Thanks, Aubrey. So in education, we very rarely have the time to pause and give thanks. And so we are really thankful that all of you have not only chosen to be a part of this group, but have stuck with it for 5 days. We know there are really great options. And so we've really appreciated this community of learners as we were planning for this opportunity. We felt like this was a class, a community that we've really grown close with. And Steph even said, it would be nice if we could just come back in September and just keep on going. So we've really, really appreciated getting to know all of you and having you open up with each other. It just feels like a genuine learning community. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to take some time to pause from life and just say thank you. Because thank you is a powerful phrase that often loses its power because it's used so loosely. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to take an opportunity to write 2 thank you notes. The first thank you note will go to the person who you just had an opportunity to grapple with coaching with. So we just want to affirm the person that just spent 15 minutes of their day listening to us. That's probably 15 minutes more than we get on most days. So just taking time to say thank you. And then who in this room or even outside of this room, maybe it's a student, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's one of your kids, maybe it's one of your own biological kids. Who are you most thankful for this school year? Who has really pushed you to be your best version of yourself? And so we'll encourage you to write a thank you note to your partner that you were just engaging with, and to write a thank you note to somebody else. It doesn't have to be someone here. It doesn't have to be someone at your school. Just who are you most thankful for? And we'll invite you to take that card and give it to them. Because we all can use some words of appreciation, especially in the culture in which we live today. So we're going to invite you to just take time. Steph and Aubrey have already passed out cards to write thank you notes. When you're done writing your thank you notes, there's 2 steps of directions that we'll invite you to follow. So this is going to be kind of a 3-phase process to close out our time together. Step 1 is writing 2 thank you notes. Step 2 is we're going to invite you to fill out the survey for our breakout session, so your feedback is valued. We already had a time to look at the feedback from this morning during lunch, and we'll take some time after we're done today to look at it. But what feedback might you give Steph, Aubrey, and I to help grow our craft? And third, and finally, in the back of the room, we're going to set up some charts. So those agenda charts are going to be moved, and there's going to be a bunch of blank paper and a bunch of markers. Once you've completed your thank you notes and you've completed the survey, we'll ask that you stand up, walk to the back of the room, and hold on to a marker. Once we see that everyone is back there with a marker, that'll be assigned to us that we're ready to move on, and Aubrey will give us the last set of directions. So to review, 2 thank you notes, feedback to grow, and then we're going to do some chalk talk in the back of the room. What questions might we have about the next 25-ish minutes? Okay, take as much time as you need. We are thankful for all of you.